And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho. Today we'll be talking about the sun and various other things such as the coronal hole wind stream, how it continues, along with a condition of geomagnetic unrest. Here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. This is the closest star in 171 angstroms. Sunspot 2816 down there in the lower left, as well as a new active region rising. Active region setting in the southwest. We got some filamentary activity over in that area. Let's take a look. Some filamentary material dancing around there near former sunspot 2815. Great view of those filaments in 304 angstroms. Next 1700 angstroms. And you can see those dark regions associated with sunspot 2816, the main source of activity right now. Also an active region up here to keep an eye on. Speaking of ions, here's the solar system. There's where things will be in 1 week. We've advanced that to the day of the full moon. Looks like on the 26th. Here's a star chart. Once again, Saturn and Jupiter appearing before dawn if you have a view of the ecliptic and clear skies. This yellow line here is the ecliptic. I face my star chart to the south. I'm currently facing to the south. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux now up to 78, and we're expecting a precipitous uptick in the radial flux soon. And for you new viewers, the upper chromosphere and outer corona emit radio frequency in 2,800 megahertz, otherwise known as 10.7 centimeters. Here's a one-year chart of that. It's this black line. It's the most proportional data set to sunspot number in terms of solar activity. And we're expecting the coronal hole wind stream to subside soon here. NOAA has forecasted for it to have already stopped, but we saw solar wind speeds reach about 650 kilometers per second, the forecasted second pulse. And next, I'd like to thank our patrons, the true source of funding for the content. Thanks, patrons. Please consider funding our operation at Patreon at patreon.com/smAsho. If you want the earliest alerts, other media, and other perks, patreon.com/smAsho. You'll receive the information before anybody else does. And thanks once again to our patrons. Largest earthquake of the past 24 was a 5.8 at Taiwan. So no quakes over a 6 magnitude here over the past 24 hours. Let's scroll up the list. And I don't know what is going on with my mouse today. Stay where I leave you, mouse. All right, what is up with that? Here we go. Scrolling up the list here. So a bunch of 5 magnitude quakes. Myanmar, a 5.4 pre-shock at Taiwan, and then that 5.8 that came in at 14:14. 2:15 p.m. Universal Time at Taiwan. A deep quake at Argentina and the Fiji Islands. And the Argentinian deep quake happened only a few minutes, 3 minutes after that quake at Taiwan. Then a 4.5 at extreme depth near Fiji. A 5.2 magnitude near New Zealand in the Kermadec Trench. A deep quake at Indonesia, actually 2 of them, a 4.6 and a 4.4. Those are about a half hour apart there. Indonesia saw a deep quake as well, a 4.8. So a bit of activity there around the western rim of the Pacific. A 4.8 deep quake at Fiji. A 4.4 deep quake at Mexico. Also a deep quake at Denali. That was only a 2.5 magnitude. A 5.2 at Chile, rather. A 4.3 deep quake at Russia. And that's the earthquake rundown. Let's see what's going on with volcanoes. And here at Volcano Discoveries Volcano Today page, we see Cinnabung produce some strong eruptions, explosions indeed, enough to produce a 12,000-foot plume of volcanic ash, Semeru. On the Indonesian Isle of East Java, produced a 13,000-foot ash plume as it exploded. Samisa Pochnoi in the Aleutian Islands has been downgraded to orange from red aviation level. Popocatépetl has dispersed its ash in central Mexico. Sangay in Ecuador exploding, 25,000-foot ash plume there. Sabancaya exploding, 24,000-foot ash plume there. And Soufrière is still at it in the West Indies as it explodes. A 3-kilometer ash plume above that caldera. Another reminder, folks, to not pole vault the caldera. Please don't pole vault the caldera, folks. It's a public service message brought to you at massive personal risk and expense by smAshomash.com. And here's the GOES X-ray flux. We actually saw a significant B-class flare here as I was making coffee. And no major solar flares over the past 24. There is some possibility for perhaps a C-class flare, as sunspot 2816 is indeed a beta-class sunspot. And also there's a region rising that produced some flaring as well. We don't see any strikes in the proton flux there. No coronal mass ejections expected to strike Earth anytime soon. Here's the GOES magnetometer, and we see very spiky readings on the GOES magnetometer here, as the coronal hole wind stream has not yet subsided, although we are expecting that to subside sometime soon, within the next few hours, most likely. Next, looking at more magnetic data here, here's the ecliptic plane top view field plot, Earth solidly in the South Pole current sheet. And we see some minor changes in the sun's B field here as cycle 25 progresses at a very slow pace. At quite a similar spot to cycle 24 at this time throughout cycle 24's progression. Just another view of the current sheet. And this view here, the coronal hole field plot, also shows you the sun's B field, which is those blue. The sun's B field are those blue potential field surface source lines. And we do see a little bit of motion in this, although not a lot. And here is the detected filaments and sunspot groups. Dual animation here. I'm expecting this active region down here to be a sunspot, as it produced some significant flares. It's not quite in view when I did show prep, perhaps by the time we're at the end of the recording. I'm not sure about all these filaments up here. I think some of that might not be as filamentary as it appears there. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but in any case, there's the data from the Integrated Space Weather Analysis Center. And you can see we've been in geomagnetic unrest conditions for the past 9 hours approximately. Next, the real-time solar wind. And here's this double pulse coming in. You can see the density drop down once again. The velocity came up to about 650 kilometers per second there. So significant coronal hole wind stream still in the process of showing up. We just saw another pulse as I did show prep to 653 kilometers per second. Current conditions 639 kilometers per second for the solar wind speed. Solar wind density 6.64 protons per cubic centimeter. Here's a geospace magnetosphere movie, 4 hours of data according to the Space Weather Modeling Framework. And that pressure mainly caused by that increased solar wind speed, not so much the density. This is showing you nanopascals. Again, it's 4 hours of data. Excuse me. We'll also show you ground magnetic perturbations. Here is the geospace delta B for the polar regions. Geospace delta B changes in the Earth's B field. Once again in nanotesla. Not looking like any major auroras have been recently caused by this. We do see some sudden pulses happening there, some sudden pulses happening here, mainly in the North Pole area. And here is the global view. You can see indications that the South Pole has left the Antarctic continent. The location of the Canadian North Pole as well as the Siberian one are evident in that view there. Next, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Neo-Renaissance. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Check out our own page, smAsho.com. You can find our social media links as well as contact information. And today's featured product is the purple Mansa shirt. If you click on the smAsho store, you'll be redirected to one of our Teespring sites, and that's today's featured product. It's the Mansa shirt. Yes, it's in purple, and I would like to remind our viewers to make America not suck again. Has it been sucking where you are? Well, it's up to you. It's up to each one of us to make our local environment not suck. So Mansa, make America not suck again. An utterly unpartisan product available at the smAsho store. We're also on Twitter, by the way. If you haven't checked us out over there, there's exclusive content at twitter.com/smAshomash. Also, check out our forum, smAshomash.com/forum. There's a slam poetry contest there to win a free month of Patreon for May. All you got to do is win the slam poetry contest, thanks to our Twitch viewers as well, and our BitChute viewers. Exclusive content on all of our sites. And don't forget to press like and subscribe if you're viewing on YouTube. Most likely you are. The main source of content here at Smash News Network, least busted name and news. Press like, press subscribe, press share. Tell your friends, foes, science noobs, and science pros about the channel. We're going to do a quick cosmology segment today. We're going to pick a random object between 1 and 1031. Today's featured number is 500, which will coincide with something at the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory. Let's see what it might be. And number 500 is Centaurus X4, the low-mass X-ray binary. Might give us some great visuals. This one's only been monitored since 2020, apparently. And you can see it's quite cyclical here over the past 30 days. You can see these sudden spikes here, this large spike in the 30-day chart here in the lower left. And let's take a look at this on Aladdin Light. We'll look at this in a few different wavelengths. First, the 2-mass. Here it is in infrared. Centaurus X4, the low-mass X-ray binary. And let's take a look at it on Pan-STARRS. Not showing up on Pan-STARRS. So, located in the constellation of Centaurus, this X-ray source does show up in blue light. And let's take a look at it on the Chandra. There it is on Chandra. It's a bit of an oblong X-ray source, and these typically consist these type of low-mass X-ray binaries typically consist of a white dwarf orbiting another type of star. And without going further into that, that's today's featured cosmology segment, Centaurus X4, today's randomly selected cosmological object. Next, looking at the electron flux, here's the 1-year chart, and you see this precipitous uptick. Here is the 3-day chart, and we're seeing major fluctuations here in the electron flux, sudden dips, And if you're wondering what these N's and M's mean, these are midnight and local time noon. Midnight and noon local time for the GOES 16 satellite. And we're expecting this to be even higher today, so expect some major GPS errors, especially around the equator at noon. And these green boxes here are the forecast. The yellow diamonds are the observation. The forecast by NOAA here expecting even higher levels. So some massive GPS errors to happen. Could also cause some other satellite communication errors, as the Van Allen belts will have very dense regions of electrons. There's a diagram of the Van Allen belts. And here's a total electron content forecast. We're looking at essentially two-dimensional electron density through the entire air column here. And again, expect some major GPS errors, especially around the equator at noon. And fairly organized electron belts, which is what we typically see when we see high levels of electron flux, which we've suddenly transitioned into. Lots of electrons out there in the Van Allen belts. Here's a diagram of the atmosphere, and I would direct your attention to that red F over there toward the right. That's the F ionosphere layer located at about 300 kilometers of altitude, and here is a visualization of that. In vibrational frequency, you're looking at megahertz. Each blob represents 1 megahertz difference. Millions of vibrations per second. We saw some major anomalies here in the past few days. Let's see if we see any more here. Each tick of the clock here, folks, represents 15 minutes. And we do show this one daily on the Daily Space Weather. So not super anomalous here as far as the ionosphere. Some fairly rapid charge ups and charge downs though. And let's just bring up the latest image. This one coming in at 9 o'clock Universal Time, looking pretty normal at that point. We see some strong winds here off the Philippines once again. At least 95-mile-per-hour winds there. Here are the rest of the surface winds of the eastern world. Strong onshore winds there, striking southern Kamchatka. Here is the jet stream scenario for the eastern world. And that counterclockwise rotation there off the coast of the Philippines, translating all the way into jet stream level counterclockwise rotation. How about the jet streams of the western world? There are those. Quadruple jet streams there, or triple jet streams at least, over the Atlantic Ocean, the northern portion, as well as the southern portion. Extreme meridional jet stream flow at its finest. Some major bends in that jet stream. Here are the surface winds of the western world. And still seeing some sudden bends in the wind in the North Atlantic. We've been seeing this go on for a couple of weeks now. Here comes some more meteorology stuff. It's lightningmaps.org. We've got some lightning surrounding Florida here. South of Tampa, it looks like there's some thunder roll again. Hey, Bradenton, there's thunder rolling in. And here's the world lightning map. Most of the world's lightning concentrated right around Florida right now. Next, I'd look at the windy.com's snow depth map. And look at all the snow in the U.S., folks. We're going to advance this into tomorrow. This is the Euro forecast for snow. And as you can see, more snow forecasted. That's where we expect snow to be at noon daylight time tomorrow. Noon Eastern daylight time tomorrow. Kansas is expected to be almost fully blanketed by snow. It's April 19th, folks, and it's still snowing. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar map. Significant amount of Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, and even North Dakota. Some heavy, heavy bands of snow in there. It's likely very heavy snow. As you can see, some of it's mixing in with a wintry mix. Here's what's going on in the cloud layer. And here's the water vapor map. And you can see some massive pressure gradients there located west of Florida. Some sudden cloud nucleation as well. It's a bunch of hot air. And here come bonus features, we hope. Here's the latest imagery from the ground-based solar telescope at Udaipur, India. Looks like some clouds showing up there. And you can see some filaments up here. I'm not sure if it's as many as were shown in that Integrated Space Weather Analysis Center video. But there are some filaments up there. There is still a possibility for additional coronal mass ejections in the Earth-facing vicinity. Filaments down here as well. Sunspot 2816 right here, and a possible other active region rising. Filaments around the eastern limb. So lots of stuff going on. Thanks for tuning in, Smash Team. Let's see if the SDO is back. The SDO has been down. The SDO's website, that is. And there is still data you can find there. Here are some close-ups of the southeastern region, Sunspot 2816 there, as well as this new active region. Here's a full disk view in 304 angstroms. And here's a close-up of just the southern hemisphere in 1600. In any case, thanks for tuning into the Daily Space Weather. We'll see you next time, and may that solar wind be at your back. And it looks like the trailing umbra of that sunspot has grown a little bit.